Welcome to Notes on a Painting. Notes on a Painting is a podcast by artist Olivia Kemp and art historian Esme Garlake. Together each week we will discuss a painting that one of us has chosen and researched. Our choices of painting will reflect where our tastes differ and overlap across the history of art.
Right.
Hi,
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm good. Have you had a good week?
I've actually had a cold, so
Oh, maybe you caught mine from last week.
yeah, I know. Yeah, last week you had a cold, now I have a cold. But I'm recovered pretty much, so I'm feeling like the life is streaming back into me, which is
Nothing is
always
better
fun.
than when you realize how good life is without a cold.
It really reminds you. But yeah, I think I said this like last episode or something, but I am still crawling to the end of winter,
Oh
though.
yeah.
Just like the cold was the cherry on top, but it's still like it's so grey outside. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
not long now, I think.
No, no. It feels like we had one sunny day at the weekend. That was nice.
Yeah, that was good. That was great. Um, yeah, I've kind of looked at the sun from the window, which has been like very self-pitying.
Oh. Well, I'm
I
glad you
know,
feel
thank
better.
you. Yeah, yeah.
We're
Um,
looking at something more uplifting and vibrant today.
yeah, we are. It's beautiful.
It's got a bit of sunshine in it.
Yeah.
We're looking at Thomas Cole's A View of the Mountain Pass called The Notch of the White Mountains, brackets Crawford Notch, 1839. And it's actually at the National Gallery of Art in Washington, which lots of the things we cover seem to be. Oh, did you see that it's big news in art this week, sorry, sidebar, but
Yeah.
the Artemisia Mary Magdalene, the one that you love when she's like leaning back with her
Oh
hands up,
yeah, I love
that's
that.
ended up at the National Gallery of Art in Washington as of like last week.
Wait, I swear it had actually been purchased or acquired before, but do you mean it's like,
I saw an announcement. Apparently, it's been placed there. That's where
oh
they
wow.
seem to be buying all the good stuff at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm gonna be, I've never been to the States. I sadly don't think I'll be there for a while, so I'm
Well, at
like,
least you've seen
oh,
it.
Mary Magdalene. But they do have incredible collections.
Yeah.
Like, and also the Italian Renaissance stuff
Mm,
is and Baroque is crazy good. So I will
yeah.
need to go. So this is on display in the National Gallery.
Yes. So it's on display in the National Gallery of Art in Washington. The sources for today's episode are the National Gallery of Art Washington website, the Wikipedia page on the artist, a Met Museum essay on Cole by Kevin J. Avery. And what I used most was a publication called American Paintings of the 19th Century, Part One, which was published by the National Gallery of Art in Washington. And it was an essay by Franklin Kelly. Shout out Franklin Kelly.
Oh yeah. Was he like the academic that you were like,
Heavily lent into that. It was a brilliant essay.
yeah, amazing.
Would you like to describe the painting?
Yes. So this is it's an autumnal mountain scene, I would say would be my summary, very short summary of it. There's in the, I always find landscapes really difficult to describe because they are saying landscape. It can be anything really, but I would say the visually the first thing that my eye is drawn to is this big mountain hill, rugged kind of hill in the middle. And then there's a forest, two forests on either side, and in which create a kind of valley. Um, it's not like so that big mountain in the middle, like I guess often when you say landscapes, you can think of like a horizon line and this vast view. That this is certainly not that. Like the vastness comes from, I guess, the height of the mountain. There are clouds. There's a really dark shadow of clouds to the left top hand corner, which are like sweeping across, and then there's blue sky on the other side. So there's quite a dramatic like weatherscape going on as well.
Mm.
Um, but then, and you've got, then in the foreground, you have these lichen covered tree stumps and like gnarled, like, I guess they look like dead trees. Yeah. And
Yeah.
bracken. And the key as well is that this is, well, it seems like a autumnal scene. The colors are reddy, green, orange, brown, and there's this strong light shining onto, I guess, the left side of the. So that when I'm speaking about the valley, it's like there's a tiny gap between the two sides of the forest, which is then it looks it's pretty amazing. Just as I'm zooming in on my screen, you can see this like cloud through the gap.
Mm.
So there's your eye is really being drawn into the middle, but in the middle ground, there's like a clearing. There's a hut and a house. The house is hidden among like behind a tree and there's smoke coming out of the chimney. And then I was zooming in just before we started recording, and yeah, there are these little figures. So closest to us is a man on a horse, on a black horse, going down this path. And then zooming in, and I say zooming in, but obviously if you're seeing this in person, you don't zoom in. I was like zooming in. That's not how it works. It's much nicer seeing in person, obviously, because you just move your body. Um, but yeah, there's a little like there's an adult and a child hand in hand and a dog, and then somewhere there's also a carriage with some
Mm.
horses.
Yeah, there's a stagecoach.
A stagecoach, yeah. So I would say it's pretty idealized. It's very beautiful,
Yeah.
quaint, quaint but dramatic. The people are more quaint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will start with a little bit about the artist and then I'll go into the painting.
Mm.
So Thomas Cole was an Anglo-American artist who became the founder of the Hudson River School of Painting and is known as one of America's greatest landscape painters and early English documenters of the American landscape. And when I say American, I'm referring to the United States, just to clarify. Um, Cole was born in Lancashire in 1801, but he and his family immigrated to the US in 1818, settling in Steubenville, Ohio. Don't know if I'm saying that right, but
Steubenville.
his father had established a wallpaper business there, but Cole didn't find the work particularly fulfilling. It's thought that he learnt some basic painting skills from an itinerant artist, and he began selling some portraits, genre works, and a few landscapes. And then when he was 22, he moved east to Philadelphia and then on to Catskill, New York in the spring of 1825. So Cole made a trip up the Hudson River to the eastern Catskill Mountains. And based on sketches he made there along the river, he executed 3 landscapes of the area. And a city bookseller then agreed to display them in his window. And these works were then seen by Colonel John Trumbull, lovely name, who was renowned as the painter of the American Revolution. He purchased one and recommended purchasing the other 2 to his colleagues, William Dunlap and Asher B. Durand. Durand comes up quite a few times in this. He's another American landscape painter who also went on to be part of the Hudson River School. Trumbull said that he admired in the work the depiction of wilderness without the attempt to tidy it up or pretty it, something that landscape artists had previously failed to capture by his reckoning. Now, I think when we look at Cole's work, we can probably see some attempts to pretty it, but I think what he's talking about is obviously some of those people coming over from Europe at the time have got that kind of Italianate, beautiful landscape garden kind of approach to landscape. So I think their idea of depiction of wilderness is very different to our idea of a depiction of wilderness. Yeah. So what Cole was doing at the time did look very wild and different, but obviously we see it through quite a different lens, I think, to that interpretation. Yeah. So because of Trumbull promoting the work to quite a few of his patrons, people began eagerly collecting it. And he publicized the discovery of this new talent, and Cole really, really quickly made his way onto New York's cultural scene, and he became one of the founders of the National Academy of Design in 1825, which is mind-blowing to me because he made those paintings in 1825. So I
Yeah.
don't understand.
He
I'm
worked
like, he did all of
fast.
that in 1 year? That's absolutely insane. Or maybe America is still pretty new and you can just found
Yeah.
academies
Who made?
pretty quickly. I don't know, but if those dates are correct, that's kind of mad. Um, so he began to expand his radius and painted subjects such as scenes in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Um, my husband's actually from that area of New
Mm.
Hampshire, so this is why I've picked this painting today.
Oh, have you been there?
I have not this
Yeah.
specific place.
Yeah.
This is Crawford Notch. There are
Hmm.
three notches which I'll come to later, but
Hmm.
I've been through Franconia Notch.
Oh, it just looks so beautiful.
So in the summer of 1826, so only the following year, Daniel Wadsworth, who was a wealthy patron of Cole's, made a tour of the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Wadsworth was greatly impressed by the rugged beauty of the area, which is now renowned for its numerous dramatic peaks, including Mount Washington, which is the highest point in the northeastern US, its deep valleys and impressive rock formations. The following year, he recommended that Cole take a similar tour and provided a detailed itinerary, and that included Crawford Notch. After 2 weeks sketching in the White Mountains, Cole declared himself encompassed by the beautiful scenery, that he'd already become to know the particular landscape and charms of the Catskill and the Lake George, but this landscape affected him even more powerful. He said, "It is here in such sublime scenes that man sees his own nothingness, and the soul feels unutterably." This
Mm.
began for Cole an association with the White Mountains that would resonate in many great paintings of his over the rest of his career. And these include works such as View on Lake Winnipesaukee, View from near the summit of Mount Washington, and View in the White Mountains. Most of these titles include the word view.
Yeah. Sorry.
So the original title for View on Lake Winnipesaukee is View on Lake Winnipesaukee, but I think it's now been adapted to its more traditional Native American
Mhm.
name. So the features of Crawford Notch, however, don't seem to come up in his paintings immediately, even though he had sketched it. The Notch is one of three famous deep valleys in the heart of the White Mountains. The others are Pinkham Notch and Franconia Notch. It was first seen by white men in 1771, and it then quickly became an important route through the mountains. So the Notch is that bit you're describing where the two mountains are quite
Mm.
close together and there's the gap.
Yeah.
So this becomes,
Okay.
and these notches become important ways to traverse through the mountain.
Hmm.
So a basic road was built there in the 1780s. And as I said, I've driven through Franconia Notch,
Hmm.
which is like on its way as you head up north through New Hampshire toward Canada.
Yeah. Do
And it
you
does,
feel like you're going through the very narrow
yeah.
bit?
And you do
Yeah.
still feel what Cole, I think, is trying to depict, which is that idea that wilderness lies straight off the road or like just off the
Mm.
track. Because you
Yeah.
do feel that kind of, this that untouched nature of national park and mountainous areas in
Mm.
general due to their inaccessibility. They
Yeah.
have that feeling of you're on this very man-made
Just like,
road, but right there, because of the narrowness of the gap, is
mm.
wildness.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Crawford Notch had become particularly renowned at the time due to an event that was widely reported on. This was a landslide or avalanche that occurred on the 29th of August, 1826.
Mm.
And the disaster claimed the lives of an entire family who had a small farm in the Notch. There had been an unusually hot and dry summer prior, which had made the mountains particularly prone to disturbance, and a sudden burst of rain loosened a stream of rocks and debris that came down about 2,000 feet, straight down the mountain towards the home of Samuel Willey. The family attempted to flee the incoming disaster, but at the last moment, the slide divided and changed direction, avoiding their house entirely and
Oh
heading
my
straight for
God.
the fleeing family.
That's awful.
Yeah. A rescue party arrived the next day to search for the family, The bodies of Mr. and Mrs. Willie, two children and two farmhands, were eventually located, but no trace of the other three children was ever found. The dramatic and tragic story of the Willie family's demise was very pertinent to feelings at the time about wildness, about the symbolism of man's frailty in nature, and it also tied in with religious and romantic ideals around the uncertainty of life itself and the power of divine will. And the incident inspired numerous literary responses. So Cole didn't paint the notch in an immediate response to the incident, which was 1826 was the incident. He painted it in 1839.
Okay.
So in late June of that year, Cole travelled to the White Mountains in the company of his fellow painter, Asher B. Durand, who I mentioned was an early praiser of his work. And by the 3rd of July, they were at Crawford Notch. Cole made a plein air drawing of the site, and the drawing itself indicates that he had a large painting in mind, as it's very detailed and very annotated, compared to his usual plein air drawings, which are more like loose sketches. So it was evident that he took some time on this and that he intended to make a work about the specific area. He transcribed every important feature of the scene in the drawing, including the profile of Mount Webster, the steep walls of the notch itself, with the rocky outcropping, which is known as Elephant's Head, which is immediately above to the left, and the well-known Notch House, which is an inn that was established by Abel Crawford and his son in 1828. Cole did use some artistic license with the topography. Mount Webster is a bit steeper, and the rock walls of the notch are closer. The drawing has some scattered lines in the sky that suggest some kind of weather effect was intended, but that grand atmospheric drama of the clouds was something he only fully realised in the painting.
Just about, wait, who was the person who built that house there? Because I was just thinking I wouldn't really want to set up a house where there's just been this massive landslide.
So that's not the site
Oh, it's not the
of,
site. Thank
yeah,
God.
I'll come to it, but it's not the site of the disaster. It's close
Okay.
to, but not. I think the disaster is the other side of the notch.
Okay. But still,
Yeah.
like you're
But
quite
it's still an
vulnerable.
important route through the mountains. So if you're setting up an inn there,
Yeah.
you're going to get a lot of trade.
Yeah, true. Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful. And it is definitely like that. Would he have stayed there? I imagine.
I would assume
Possibly.
so. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know.
Unless there was another inn, like
Yeah,
a
I can't imagine there's a great
competition.
deal of them.
Yeah, that was probably where he stayed. Yeah.
So the other thing you'll notice is, as I said, he was there in June and July, and this is an autumnal scene.
Mhm.
So there was
Yeah.
definitely some artistic license there as well. But New Hampshire is known for its autumnal
Mhm.
scenery, or as my husband says, New Hampshire in the fall.
Yeah, of course.
And so this work is considered to be one of Cole's finest American scenes because he did travel to Italy later.
Okay.
It was an immediate success when exhibited in the National Academy of Design in the spring of 1840. A critic wrote, "This is a truly American picture. The boldness of the scenery itself, the autumnal tints which are spread over the forest, and the wild appearance of the heavens give it a character and stamp that we never see in works of foreign schools, and we pronounce the artist a master without a rival among his own countrymen."
A patriot.
Hmm. But given how well Crawford Notch was as the site of the Willie disaster and the widespread iterations of the subject in contemporary literature, it seems inescapable that at least some contemporary viewers would have viewed the painting through that association with the story. And Cole probably welcomed the affiliation, for the story was inextricably linked with the landscape at this point.
Yeah.
And although he didn't show the actual site of the disaster or the house, which was still standing, he did include the bare areas on the flank of Mount Webster where the landslide had started.
Oh. Oh yeah, okay. Gosh.
The drama and the beauty of the landscape and the tragedy of the Willie family imbues the work with a kind of tension expressed both pictorially and thematically that gives Crawford Notch its powerful resonance. It's both beauty and cruelty, sublime and unpredictable. So
Wow.
yeah, it's
I mean,
quite
it
a
reminds me a
powerful
bit,
painting.
it does remind me of I mean, the romantic, in terms of romanticism, it was around this time, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Um, and I guess it's interesting that it's claimed as this really American painting that is, and I know you talk about, of course, the differences and how it was representing wilderness in a different kind of way, but it's also still so, um, I don't know, Europeanized with those ideas of like the sublime and the romantic,
Mm.
vast nature. I guess it's just the vastness of the landscape as well allows that to be taken to another scale.
It is. It's quite surreal. I mean, you look at it like if you know that area today and now how it looks in the painting. I mean, the
Mm,
road is just a little track,
mm,
and that the trees are still being cleared to make way for farming, and
mm,
which is like Cole was like really heavily against. He didn't
yeah.
like all the clearing of the land that had been
Mm,
going on. It does have that real feeling of the beauty, but also how I guess it does make you sort of contemplate how scary nature was and how this was like a new land to a lot of people who were
mm,
moving there and living there. And that brings with it new dangers and an unpredictability that you
mm.
can kind of imagine them really taking on board when they're looking at that painting. And
Yeah.
it has an extra layer to it that we wouldn't really think about
Yeah.
so much today in looking at a painting of a mountain.
Yeah.
Like to people who knew the story or who even were like who were also new Americans and taking in the new landscape and that
Mm,
wilderness, it
mm.
was quite intimidating,
Yeah. Oh,
beautiful
yeah.
and intimidating.
Yeah. I guess there's also a kind of ownership of it through painting it. Like by painting it, you can impose a narrative onto it and ideas. And in that sense, then like clearly people could see it as their landscape or a landscape that they were familiar with or that had like with the Willie family, there's a kind of a law that emerges around the landscape, which
Mm.
if you're, you know, a relatively new nation, and this is a landscape that obviously for like millennia has belonged to other people, like Native Americans, then it's like that kind of imposition of like, this is our landscape
Mm.
as
He's
well.
painting it only what, 70 years after it's first seen by white
Yeah.
settlers.
Yeah.
That's mad. Like that's really hard
Yeah.
to get your head around, you know?
It's actually so recent as well. Like you think about, yeah, the how recent, I know it's a bit later, of course, but actually the American Civil War is really not that long ago. If you think about the generations that link, like
Hmm.
it's really a few generations kind of
Yeah.
thing. And yeah, um it's it's very interesting. Like so the Hudson River School was, I guess they all kind of were producing image paintings like this. I know you said this one is particularly stands out, but I guess they were is this quite representative then of what they were doing
Yeah.
as a
Yeah, I
school?
believe so. I think obviously in early, very, very early white American art is quite a lot of primitive painting going on and
Mhm.
self-taught work. And when you're in a museum in the US and you're looking at those very early
Mm.
works, it's you can't really compare it to what's going on in Europe at the time because it's
Mm.
whoever happened to have traveled to America and had
Yeah.
paints paints with them.
Yeah.
So this like the Hudson River School is one of the first early really impressive movements of painting that comes
Mm.
out of America,
Mm.
um, out of the United States.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's what makes it particularly notable, I think, is prior to that,
Mm.
when you look at the quality of landscape and portraiture, there's the odd outlier, but there's not a lot of really great work. And then it really starts to pick up
Yeah.
around this time, as
Yeah.
far as I believe.
Yeah, I just can't believe that he founded, like, he seems to just have founded this academy and then he just, like, I love that he displays this in, like, what is it, 1840 at the
Yeah.
same academy. And it's
Yeah.
like, wow, he's really just, I guess, yeah, like you say, maybe it was just this, like clearly there were also the patrons. It was appealing to something that
Yeah.
was really, yeah, like resonated with a lot of people.
Well, you wouldn't have, if, as a wealthy person in America at the time, you wouldn't have been
Yeah.
able to furnish your house with great paintings of American landscapes.
Mm,
And, you know, you would have had Italianate
mm.
landscapes or European landscapes. And suddenly
Yeah.
there's these works that truly rival and come close to the
Mm.
works that are going on in Europe. And you can show something. I think there was a real patriotism around it to be able to
Oh
finally,
yeah.
you know, have something that really competes and sits on the world stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, the artist's marriage shortly after this led him down the road to increased piety.
Oh, oh, hello. I
Yeah.
didn't-
Not sure why. That's just what it said on when I was reading about him. And
Yeah.
this manifested in the four-part series he made called The Voyage of Life, which
Mm.
is around 1840 and it's one of his best-known works. In it,
Mm.
a river journey represents the human passage of life to eternal reward. Cole painted and exhibited a replica of the series in Rome when he returned there in 1841 as well. After his return home, he lived and worked mostly in the Catskill area, and he kept up with art activity in New York, primarily through his friend Durand, and
Mm.
continued to produce both American and foreign landscape subjects.
Mm.
In 1846, Cole was working on his largest and most ambitious series, The Cross and the World, which is currently unlocated. Always
What?
fascinating to me.
Yeah, true.
But in February 1848, he contracted pleurisy and died before completing it. A memorial was held for him in New York. Um, I believe this is an author. Bryant mourned that much is taken away from the charms of nature when such a man departs, but he consoled himself with the thought that Cole will be reverenced in future years as a great master in art. And even before Cole's death, his earliest follower, Durand, who had travelled and sketched with him in the 1830s on that trip to the Notch, had become a landscape painter in his own right and ascended to the presidency of the National Academy of Design. Durand would foster a young generation of landscape artists inspired by Cole's example, who would lead themselves to preeminence in American art through the Civil War era. Someone like Winslow Homer, who we discussed in episode 46,
Yeah.
would have been well aware of Cole and the work of the Hudson River School. So his legacy really did carry through.
Yeah. And Durant really Durant?
Durand, but I was,
Durand,
yeah,
he really is the figure going along all of this,
yeah.
isn't he? Because if
He,
he's then also part of teaching and
yeah.
passing on the style and the lessons from that Hudson River School, yeah. Um, I also just think of the amazing, like the kind of travels that Cole would have been doing, like
Mm.
all of the physical efforts and like logistical efforts of doing those kind of trips
Yeah.
is incredible. Like the horses and the helpers and the all of the food and preparation and all of that. It's like, God, these were quite. I thought, honestly, I thought you were going to say, oh, he like fell off a mountain.
Well, these paintings, sort of, then when you think about it in that regard, they kind of become to the patrons who buy them like these sort of trophies because it's
Yeah.
capture these views of these places that are
Mm,
so wild, I guess.
yeah.
Would have been
And
quite an achievement and quite an undertaking and would have taken a significant amount of patronage and
yeah.
time.
And also just it reminds me a little bit of Turner um going on. I don't know if this actually happened, but you know, the story of him like
On a
strapping
ship's
himself to
mast.
the ship to a ship's mast and like getting hit in the face by all of the sea, like the waves and the foam and everything. I do think there's that plein air painting and those the physical and like psychological impact of being in these vast dramatic landscapes,
Mm.
you know, for weeks or months on end. It is amazing to think how that plays into then the paintings that we see.
Yeah, and some of the
Um,
places he went, he must have been aware that he might be the first white man in that specific spot
Mm,
or on that specific peak,
mm,
going to those places and
yeah.
exploring.
Yeah.
Which I guess very, very mixed feelings on that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it is kind of there is a very mixed feelings painting because it's so beautiful, but then
Mm.
also the time and the like I also read something ages ago about like landscape, like national park landscape painting. I'm sure it's
Yeah.
this kind of
We
time.
can't ignore the fact as well that in a lot of Cole's paintings of American landscapes, there are sort of idealized images of native people.
Mm,
They're painting a Lake Winnipesaukee, for example,
mm,
features a native person in the
yeah.
foreground. So yeah, and I've no idea how accurate or how appropriate
Yeah.
that is. It's not something that comes up in this painting, but it's
Mm.
worth noting.
Yeah, for sure. And the kind of I guess what I was saying about the ownership of it, like the national park, it's like you're conserving nature, but you're also throwing people off their lands and
Yeah.
that kind of um it's just that strange like it's the 19th century. It's just it's such a like an icky okay, icky is seriously under like underplaying the 19th century.
No, but
But it,
it's difficult. It's difficult to talk about and to try and talk about it appropriately and to advocate for the impressive and important elements, but
mm,
also highlight the controversial and
mm,
difficult elements and
yeah.
why these people are here and what damage are they doing and what other older stories does this landscape hold and how appropriate is it the way that it's being depicted? It's some of these like
Yeah.
things you just don't have the answers to because
Mm.
you're not from there, and you
Yeah.
can only
And so,
try and make an informed guess at
yeah.
what the most appropriate way to discuss and look at these landscapes
Yeah.
is. But
Yeah.
I do think even when that's difficult, is you don't want to shy away from discussing and looking at them.
Oh yeah, you should still look at them, absolutely. And it's also they become these really great conversation starters, I think. And
Yeah, I think I'm
yeah.
always very conscious when I'm looking at these things that have that like controversial element to them that the way I'm discussing it and talking about it now may not be appropriate in 20 years' time. Like someone
Oh
might come
yeah.
back and look at it and go, God, I can't believe she's talking about it like that. That's so incorrect and wrong. But I'd rather try with all of the context I have available to me
Mm.
and like highlight something great and whatever it is about it that's difficult
Yeah.
than not try at all and be hands
Oh,
off. I think
totally.
that's being scared, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think also it is that thing of when, well, I mean, for me, like, yeah, like I say, I've never been to the States. We like it's a strange kind of mythical place in my mind. I think I said this to you before, but it's like because we absorb so much of the culture
Mm.
here, or there's all of this like connection to the UK, the special relationship, you know. Um, like, yeah, I can't. I guess I do look at these paintings from like they're from this very complicated, strange land for
Mm.
me. Um, and so yeah, there is always that thing of, well, yeah, you're gonna try talking about it, but especially if you're not from there, like it's always gonna be just trying. Yeah, maybe I'll have to go. I'll go one day.
Did you see there was an exhibition in 2018 at the National Gallery of Thomas Cole. It was
Hmm.
Eden to Empire, I think.
Ooh, very cool
It was really
title.
good.
Yeah.
It was really good and really comprehensive. I couldn't,
Oh, I should
considering
have
how big it
gone.
was, I can only assume that it traveled, was in the US and then came
Yeah,
over or
yeah.
something like that. But that was really good. And I've seen a
Damn, why
few
didn't I
in
go?
I know. I'm always
Why
thinking that though. There's always things I miss. There's
Yeah.
always something you can't see everything. But yeah, that was a
No,
really good show. But and I've
so
seen a few in
crazy.
American collections as well, along
Mm,
with other Hudson River
mm.
School paintings,
Yeah.
which is really
There's
nice.
loads of really cool academic work on it as well. Like I know like and also I will find this for I don't know, maybe we can put on an Instagram story or something, but there's a contemporary artist who did this, American artist who did this one. It's like a replica of a Hudson River School painting. It's of a mountain and then but she's like melted and burnt the canvas and it's a very arresting piece because it's like, whoa, like what is this? And it again, it's kind of conversation starter. And yeah, it's like, I guess that's where I feel very much like, okay, I'm really looking in on this. Like I'm not right in that conversation. I'm a very interested observer of it.
Thank you for joining us this week. We can never be 100% sure of the accuracy of historical events. However, the information we are providing is based on our own research. If there's a painting you'd like to hear us discuss, please let us know on social media. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe for weekly episodes.